Hi, Josh. Wondering if, okay, Josh is on mute. I know Joe's going to stay quiet today. So let me just fiddle. I'm fiddling. Sorry, guys. Hey, Josh.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Yeah, enjoying the week of sun that Inverness will get, no doubt, for the year. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's all, and you get a whole year of sun in 2 days.
Yes, pretty much. Yep. Yeah.
Uh,
And everyone's lifted, and everyone's suddenly out and about, and it completely transforms everyone, and then it's back to cloudy dreariness.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the things that I notice is that sometimes that heat is very activating for people, that
Mhm.
especially if you're not used to it, that change in
Yeah.
temperature. Um, I know depending on where you live, if you don't have that constant weather, sometimes just those small changes in barometric pressure. Joe, I know, lives in the Midwest. I can remember the differences in temperature going from day to day. It's like one day you could have just lovely warm temperature, and the next day it could be freezing cold.
Yeah.
And for our nervous system, it is a huge stress on our nervous system,
Yeah.
which often we don't think about. Um,
Yeah, I do sense it's very like deregulating. Yeah, like
yeah,
especially when you go back to that cold, cloudy sort of, you just feel so much more deprived when you
yeah,
have experienced the heat and stuff, and the heat
yeah,
can also kind of wear you out. But I think generally, just in terms of visually and stuff like that, it's definitely a good lift when you're up
yeah.
here.
I
Anyways,
mean, sunshine, huge, is,
Mhm.
so uplifting. That exposure to vitamin D is so good for us. But and if it's constant, that's great. But like you said, it's the shifts. It's almost like we were talking the other day about this shifting from sympathetic to parasympathetic, and all of that takes energy.
Yeah,
Um, and your body is always trying to, in fact, that's the topic that we're going to talk about today. The body is always trying to keep itself safe, and the way it does that is just send messages through that nervous system. And at times we absolutely have to work with the nervous system, not try to work against it. And there are some things that we can't change, like when it's one day sunny and one day cold, but
Mhm.
recognizing that that's going to have an effect on us is, I think, very important.
Yeah.
So, okay, before we get started, Josh, do you have, like I said, I know Joe's going to stay quiet today, and Anna is going to catch us on catch up, and there's other people that watch recording. Anyone got any questions? Joe, before I did get your email, yes, we will be talking about lymphatic drainage and some stuff later on in one of the courses, in one of the classes. So that's coming up. But Josh, do you have any questions on diaphragm breathing or anything we talked about?
I'm okay. I still need to catch up on most of the last session. Obviously, I didn't make it.
Okay.
Um, but no, generally I kind of get on pretty well with the diaphragm breathing just from vocal training when I
Okay.
was, yeah. So I found that generally the action of doing it is really, it comes naturally to me. So it's, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just Monday was diaphragm. We did a couple of exercises where we used our hands actually as resistance so that we could
Yeah.
feel like rib cage expansion. So just using the hands for pressure. You can do it on your belly as well. If you're laying down and you want to increase resistance or to strengthen that muscle, you could put a book on your belly. And as you inhale, just feel that difference in pressure, and then you'll watch the book rise and just make that neurological connection of this is my diaphragm causing that expansion. So lots of different ways that we can connect. And child's pose was another one that we talked about. If you don't feel because we're talking diaphragm breathing, but what I would love people to start thinking of it is a 360-degree breath. So 360 degrees, got my little funny thing here, is this expansion. So and I know our diaphragm isn't a sphere, but it is, this expansion forward, sideways, and backwards. And if you think about, if I had some, which I don't have, some tape and this area was not moving, you can see that it would really impinge on the movement of the whole breathing mechanics. So it's important not just to think about belly breathing or diaphragm breathing, it's thinking about a 360-degree breath, meaning that expansion through that whole area. And that's why we talked about rib cage, and then we also talked about the back. So Josh, if you think about your diaphragm breath, it may be that you can isolate that there is a part of that breathing mechanics that just needs a little bit more attention. So for me, it was my sides, because no one had ever talked to me about that that horizontal, that side movement. And as soon as I started working on that, I was like, oh my gosh, it made my breath so much easier. So sort of my homework for you, Josh, would be diaphragm breathing, yes, but think about that part that maybe you haven't connected with before, and maybe you've connected with all of it, but just to open your eyes to 360 degrees. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do today is we are going to be doing a new breathing exercise. And the breathing exercise we're going to learn today is many small breath holds. And Josh, have you done many small breath holds before?
I'm not, certainly not in a long time. If I
Okay.
have, yeah.
Okay. It's a great exercise. It's an emergency exercise, always to be used at the right time. And it does take a little bit of practice. So what I thought we would do today is we'll get started with me talking about many small breath holds and how we do this exercise. And then I'll talk about the nervous system. So I just want to sort of make you aware of those different nervous system states that we're probably all very aware of. The parasympathetic, rest and digest. We're aware of the sympathetic and the fight flight. But I think one of the things that often gets overlooked, or maybe because we've never experienced it, is that shutdown and freeze. So we'll just talk about that, the understanding and working with the autonomic nervous system. And then at the end of class, we will do the many small breath holds again as a breathing practice. So we'll start by learning it and we'll end by using it, because like I said, it is one of these exercises that the first time you go to use it shouldn't be in a time of crisis. So practicing it in times of, when you're cognizant of actually doing it, I was going to say in times of wellness, but when you feel up to it, so that in that time when you actually need it, you've practiced it. Because one of the things we don't want to be doing is getting into a fight flight state or a really anxious state and thinking, Vicky said many small breath holds would be really good in this moment, but I've never practiced it. And then we add to our anxiousness. So we're gonna learn it. And like I said, one of the things is to practice it. And it's a breathing practice that you will find your own rhythm with. And everyone's rhythm with this practice is very different. But to be reminded of how it works for you is very important. So for me, I had Post-it notes written because at times, and I think Anna and Joe and I had this conversation, excuse me, the other day about going through the recovery process and different days having different practices work for us. And I went through quite a long phase where many small breath holds was my go-to breathing exercise. It just worked for me. It got me out of some very anxious moments. But I also had, because I was neurologically compromised, I had Post-it notes written all over the house with many small breath holds written on the Post-it notes. I knew how to do it, but I couldn't remember to do it, if that makes sense to us. It was something that my husband knew to tell me to do. It was like if I got into a bad state, he would say, Vicky, many small breath holds. So sharing this with people around you so that they can just remind you to do it. Because like I said, in a state, sometimes we don't have that, even the energy to make a decision. And sometimes it's good that someone else is making that decision for you. And it's just that gentle reminder. And then the body goes into, okay, I've done this before and I can do this now. So it's just a couple of guidelines that I can offer up from experience. Okay, so many small breath holds. Like I said, it's an emergency exercise, but it can also be used if you're out walking and you want to do a little bit of a warm up. It's also a great exercise because it is the first time, and actually the only time in this course, that we will be covering our nostrils. Now, before we all get anxious even about that, we are only doing a breath hold for a count of 3 seconds, because for us, that could be enough. It is, as I said, a great emergency exercise for when that activation starts rising. It makes us slow our exhale. We also do, like I said, we do a little bit of a breath hold, a very short one, which helps increase very gently our CO2. And like I said, in an emergency situation, in that fight-flight situation, it is great for bringing us back down to that parasympathetic. Now, in a shutdown state, which we're going to learn about today, it may be too activating. So it's interesting. It is an emergency exercise, but it may almost be too activating because, like I said, it's a neurological thing. We have to think about it. The other thing that it's really good for is moments of chronic pain. So it helps calm the nervous system. And if you are one of these people that suffers with asthma, it is great for asthma attacks. Now, I'm not saying to not take medication, but along with medication, this is a calming exercise for asthma attacks. Patrick McKeown, who is the founder of Oxygen Advantage and Butico, his daughter is asthmatic, and he will share very often the fact that if she has an asthma attack, this is the exercise that they will use actually throughout the day when she's very activated and having, you know, a flare up. So for asthma attacks, very good. The other thing that it's very good for is if you wake up at night and you have a very busy mind, because you'll notice there's a rhythm to this breathing exercise. You focus on your breathing, and we know that when we're focused on a breathing exercise, it's often very difficult to think about other things, and it helps us get back to sleep. Okay, so like I said, it is one of those physiological sort of hacks, and we are introducing just a very small breath hold. So 3 seconds, and that's it. All right, but before we actually go through the exercise, Joe, just do this off camera. If you're watching this on catch up, what I'd like you to do is I just want to make sure that everybody is comfortable with a 3-second hold of their breath. So when I say 3-second hold, what we're going to do, if you feel able to, I'm going to count down and go 3, 2, 1. What I'd like you to do is just pause your breath while I count to 3 and make sure that does not activate you. Okay, because one of the things we don't want to do is if you've got a 2-second breath hold or a 1-second breath hold, we don't want to be doing a 3-second breath hold because we're going to put you into an activated state. Okay, does that make sense? So, all right. All right, so that's the first thing we're going to do, and then we will just be introduced to the exercise, and then at the end of class, we will spend time doing it. So I've just talked about it a whole lot. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're just going to check in with our body and see in this state that we're in right now, if a 3-second pause in our breath is suitable for our body. So in 3, 2, 1, pause your breath, 4, 2, and 1. Okay, Josh, is that okay? You're the only person I can see. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're literally going to do this exercise with a 3-second breath hold. And Josh, if you are comfortable, what I would suggest we do is that you plug your nostrils from underneath. So that's how we're going to pause the breath. If you don't feel comfortable, you can just literally pause your breath. But for most people, when we actually plug our nose, so if I plug my nose from underneath, what I'm doing is I'm pooling nasal nitric oxide in this nasal cavity. So by pausing the breath and sort of making it a sealed space, the following inhale then shunts that nasal nitric oxide down into the lungs, and we get that wonderful gas exchange that is accompanied with that nasal nitric oxide. Now, a lot of people plug their nose like this. They pinch their nose. I recommend not doing that because we know that sometimes it takes a while for the nostrils, once they've been pinched, to re-dilate or inflate. So by plugging from underneath, we can also, if we're doing this, we can rest our elbows on our chest, or if we're on a desk, we can just rest our elbows so that we're not using too much exertion. So this is lots of talking, sorry. But this is, like I said, this is a sort of a very intricate exercise, but it's a great one. And that's why I've sort of ramped it up. And you need to know when to use it. It's also great for if you're feeling very congested in the nose. So this is what it looks like. We do a normal inhale and a normal exhale. So there's no pause at the top of the inhale. We go straight into a normal exhale. Then we pause our breath for a count of 3. And then we inhale after the pause and breathe normally. So inhaling and exhaling for 10 to 15 seconds. And then we just rinse and repeat. So we just keep doing this. Inhale, exhale, pause the breath for 3 seconds. Then breathe normally for 10 to 15 seconds. Pause the breath for 3 seconds. Breathe normally for 10 to 15 seconds. So that's where the name comes from. Many small breath holds. And we do this for about 3 minutes or until our symptoms start subsiding. Okay, so I'm going to suggest that your 10 to 15 seconds is going to be about 3 breaths for us. So it's going to be a 1 breath hold or 3-second hold. And then we're going to breathe normally for 3 breaths. And then we're going to go again. Okay, Josh, since you're on camera, are you feeling up to this today? Yeah. So yes. Okay. All right. And then if you're not on camera and you're just watching this may be something you want to try just in your own time. All right. But I'm going to talk us through this and I will do it with us so that you can see me pausing and breathing. Okay. So let's start. We're going to start. Everyone's going to exhale together. So what I'll say is we're going to exhale in 3, 2, 1. Everyone exhales. And then we do normal inhale, normal exhale, pinch and cover, and I'll count, and then breathe normally. And then we'll just keep going, like I said, for about 3 minutes. Please, if you feel activated at any time, just stop. If you don't want to plug your nose, then just pause your breath. You can stop breathing for 3 seconds. You don't have to pause. You don't have to plug. You can just pause your breath. Okay, so I've given you a couple of options here. Okay, so in 3, 2, 1, I'd like everyone just to exhale. And then normal inhale, exhale, pinch, 3, 2, 1, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, pinch, pause, 3, 2, 1, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, pause, 3, 2, 1, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, pause, 3, 2, 1, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, pause, 3, 2, 1, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, pause, 3, 2, 1, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, pause, 3, 2, 1, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, pause, 3, 2, 1, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, pause, 3, 2, 1. We're going to do 2 more rounds. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, pause, 3, 2, 1. Last one. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, pause, 3, 2, 1. Okay. That was a lot of concentration for me. That was about a 10-second gap. I was watching my stopwatch. Now, the sooner you start that practice, the better. So when you start feeling activated, the sooner you start it, the better it is. If that 3 seconds feels a little bit too much, you could reduce that to 2 seconds. You could even just do a 1 second pause. Okay, so you can make it accessible for your body in your state. If the 3 seconds is, if you're one of these people that knows that you can do a 5 second breath hold without causing any air hunger or an exacerbation of symptoms, you can move it up to 5 seconds. But anything beyond 5 seconds, you're not getting any extra benefit. Okay, 5 seconds is that limit. But so it'd be 5 seconds for a pause and then 10 to 15 seconds break. So when you practice it on your own, you will get into a rhythm. So like I said, I know I'm doing this inhale, exhale, but you may feel like you need to do 4 breaths between. And, the shape of your breath may be different from me counting. But like I said, it is a great way to gently increase CO2. So we'll be talking about that next week. It's a great way to increase your circulation. It's also great to bring focus. So to calm that busy mind, to do right before you go to sleep, or if you wake up during the night. It might reduce nasal congestion and help with that long COVID asthma or just regular asthma. If you are a female and you go through PMS and you go through that phase right after the luteal phase where you're feeling very activated, you get that pain, and you get more anxiety, then it's also a very great calming exercise just to bring the body down, because we know that during certain parts of the female cycle, our respiratory rate will naturally increase because of the spikes in estrogen and progesterone. So just many, many uses of it, but different ways to bring it into your practice. So Josh, before we talk about nervous system, do you want to share anything? Any questions?
No, you kind of answered the one question I had, which was like, what is the most to extend the hold? And so 5 is the
Yeah,
limit. That's cool. Yeah.
yeah,
But no, it felt, I could actually sort of feel it sort of calming me down. It's nice when you get that feeling when you start doing a breathing exercise. You can kind of feel the system just,
yeah.
yeah,
So
just relax.
that's good. Just practice it, and like I said, you can play with those numbers. I became very playful with it, and I'm always looking for, I'm always looking for that extra edge. And one of the things and I'm just sharing, this may not be appropriate for you, but one of the things that I used to enjoy doing was in the morning to stimulate my vagus nerve, I would do like a cold water face immersion. So I had a bowl and I put some cold water in it, and I would just plant my face in the cold water. But I thought, well, if I can do many small breath holds while I'm doing my cold water face immersion, I could sort of double up on doing my breathing practice with my cold water face immersion. So I would literally, and this is just the way I did it, I would submerge. So I never had to pinch my nose, and I would submerge my face for 5 seconds, and then I would lift my head and then breathe for 10 to 15 seconds normally, and then I'd duck in again. And I found that for me very calming. And it also made me not think about that ice water that I was plunging my face into. But, different things for different people. Like I said, there's a lot of people that do it before they go to sleep or if they wake up at night. You can do it if you're out walking. It's a great way to, open up the blood vessels in the body. So many, like I said, many uses for many small breath holds. Okay. So Josh, you can give that a try. And like I said, if you're watching this on catch up, if you've got any questions about it, you can send me an email. Okay, let's talk a little bit about our nervous system, because that's our chosen topic for today. And like I said, what I want us to just have a little bit of education about, and you probably know this, but if you don't, it's just an understanding of why our breath is so important, why it's such a powerful tool. And one of the things that we are constantly up against with dealing with symptom flares or different stages that our body is entering into with our autonomic nervous system is we have to understand and work with our autonomic nervous system. So I think one of the very difficult things is recognizing our current nervous system state and associating maybe some of the symptoms that we are experiencing with that nervous system state, and also then accessing a modality that either helps us move into that next state or just allows us to rest in the state that we're in. And I know that sounds weird, but sometimes it's important if we're in something like the shutdown phase, we need to stay there and sort of gather energy, sounds a bit weird, so that we can then move into that next autonomic state. So one of the things that we know is that our nervous system is adaptive. And one of the things that I've heard over the years with the people that I've worked with is that we feel like our nervous system is broken, and it is not. Our nervous system is not broken. It is just adapting to the symptoms that we're experiencing. So the symptoms that we're getting are actually signals through the nervous system. And what we need to do is support that state and get ourselves into a stable state. One of the things I think we try to do is push through instead of trying to work with it, because what will happen, as I said, your nervous system is adaptive. And when it's ready, it will move into a different state. That's where sometimes the power of the breath is so powerful, I'm going to say. So a couple of different states, and I just want to hit some of the symptoms that we get in that state. So we've got the parasympathetic state. So the body is saying, am I safe enough? So here we're talking about safety. We're able to rest. We are able to connect with people. We are in a regulated state. So that is our parasympathetic state. So relaxation, healing, digestion is happening, and connection with other humans. Now, then we've got the sympathetic state, and that's our body saying, I need to act. I need to, or do I need to act? So we're in this mobilization. The body is in this mobilization. It's going into action. It's kind of feeling this danger response. We're activated and we're ready. And think about this as an evolutionary part of the body where we need to be activated to go hunting or to flee from something. You know, we need to have all of the energy concentrated in our area around our heart, because we need energy to mobilize the body. Now, we don't need to be in an activated state prior to going to sleep, or we don't need to be in an activated state if we're just literally resting on the couch. So this is where this disconnect happens. And then we've got this immobilization, this sort of shut down and freeze. And what your body is actually telling the body is it's actually safer to shut down than it is to be in any of the other two states. So the body is going into conservation. It's conserving energy. It is doing everything it can to gather energy to move into the next appropriate state. So this is where we actually get chronic fatigue. We get that feeling of numbness, where even activities like thinking become a little bit too much. Our body goes into a survival state. But like I said, this is not happening because we're broken. It is happening because your nervous system is adaptive. And one of the things, your nervous system always has one question. It is asking the body, am I safe or am I not? And depending on the signals the brain gets, it will then put you into that state that the body feels the safest in that moment. And I think that's one of the things that is very difficult to recognize. So let's just head over to some of the things that we feel in the different states. Parasympathetic, we've got calm, but alert. We can think clearly. We digest food. We have a stable heart rate. We can rest and connect. Our emotions are manageable. And like I said, this nasal breathing is very easy to do. The physiological side is a great exercise to do, or diaphragm breathing. So we've got that parasympathetic state where everything feels like it's working and it's very fluid. Now, when we go into that sympathetic, that is us in that action. The body's protecting itself. Problem solving becomes a little bit more difficult. We sometimes get racing thoughts. We get an increase in heart rate. Think, if I needed to run away, I would need an increase in heart rate. This is where we would experience that fast, shallow breathing, which is actually the way that your body's just trying to conserve itself. We feel tension. We get digestive issues. We feel wired but tired. We feel overstimulated by small tasks. Sleep is often compromised. And in that state, in that sympathetic state, one of the things that's really important with your breathing, when you feel this sort of activated state, is to focus on your exhale. So we know that by emphasizing that exhale, or doing a physiological sigh, or even many small breath holds, we're going to signal to the body, I'm safe. I'm safe. The longer exhale is going to gently push us into that parasympathetic state. So we've got parasympathetic, and then we've got sympathetic, and then we've got that immobilization, that shutdown, that freeze. And as I said, that is our body protecting us through the conservation of energy. So your body is perceiving a huge threat, and it's just sort of trying to almost go into hibernation. It's where we feel exhaustion, heaviness in the body, brain fog, low heart rate, low blood pressure. Sometimes we feel like we're frozen, and sometimes the breathing pattern that we see for people in this freeze and shutdown state is having difficulty breathing deeply. So when people say, I find it really difficult to take a deep breath, then often that means that they are just in that shutdown or freeze state. So it is really important to recognize that state, to know that you are at risk for post-exertional malaise. It's important to do things like lying down, just reducing stimulation. It is one of the things that I will always say, it is not depression and it is not laziness. And it is one of those things, it's not depression, it's not laziness. It is your body just saying, right now, I'm protecting myself. This is not going to be a state you're in forever. it is a protective mode. Some of the things that work for people in that shutdown state is actually not even bringing attention to their breath. Sometimes it is just breathing and doing these very small micro movements, because we know that micro movements start or they don't produce any metabolic waste. So the body's still moving, the body's feeling like, okay, I can mobilize, and the breath then connects with these movements. The other thing that just this gentle breathing, or just focusing on small breaths, so small inhales, small exhales, sometimes just starts to open up our blood vessels just a little bit. And when our blood vessels can just constrict, or dilate just a little bit, we get things like lymphatic drainage. And that starts happening, and that signals to the body, yes, I'm feeling a little bit safer here. And we can shift into a different state. So, or as we talked about the other day, sensory safety. So it may be holding on to something. It may be just using your hands to offer safety to the body. So it could be just gentle movements on the body to accompany those micro movements, or it could be holding on to a stuffed animal or a pet, or, for some people, it's holding a stone. It is whatever is your sensory connection. And the realization, or just reminding your body that small shifts are going to matter when we're moving between these states. So breathing is, like I said, it's a powerful tool to move you, but using the correct breathing exercise. So as I said, many small breath holds may be too activating for somebody in that shutdown state. It may be that it is perfect for someone in a shutdown state, and instead of doing a 3-second hold, they do a 1-second pause. They don't block their nose. They just think, if they have the emotional capability to think through the exercise, it may be enough just to signal safety to the body, and then the body will move through those different states. So my big thing is, remember, it's not broken. Small shifts matter. And being aware of some of these nuances that may be, like I said, a low heart rate. So people go, I've got an incredibly low heart rate, or my blood pressure has dropped significantly. This is often an indication of this freeze and shutdown, rather than this activated state that is a high heart rate, which many of us get stuck in fight or flight. But the overstimulation, it could be, like I said, overstimulation of the parasympathetic puts us into that shutdown freeze. Okay, that was a quick once through all the nervous system states. We will talk about the vagus nerve, because the vagus nerve actually innervates many of, we've got these different parts of our body where we've got different parts of the vagus nerve. And so the part of the vagus nerve that is associated with freeze and shutdown is the dorsal vagal nerve. And then we've got the ventral vagal nerve. So we've got different parts of the vagus nerve system that are associated with different parts of our nervous system. So it's all sort of interconnected. Okay, questions? Josh, have you got any questions on that?
No, I'm all good. Lots of things I've been sort of knee deep in research anyway, and it's just sort of reinforcing things in a kind of in a useful way though.
Yeah. Well, any questions, like I said, our autonomic nervous system is always, just trying to sense, what is the body doing? It's an amazing communication system, and it regulates so many of our body system, and it does keep us safe. It really does. And I think that's one of the things that we overlook. It's like, this is just a brilliant way that my body is keeping me safe in this moment. And it's to give into that state. And, you know, like I said, the breathing is one thing we can control, which is why it makes us so powerful. But as we discussed the other day, it could be that one day we're in one state and this breathing exercise works, and then we shift into a different state, and then we try that same breathing exercise and it doesn't feel, we don't connect with it in the same way. And I would just say to people, it's usually because we have shifted state. So when we shift states, we have to adapt. And like I said, that's why you're being exposed to these different breathing exercises. And the more we can find ways to calm our nervous system, over time, it will become regulated. And that was us touching the other day on heart rate variability. You know, the way that we know that we have a regulated nervous system is one of the biofeedbacks is our heart rate variability. We know that if we have a strong heart rate variability, then our body's ability to deal with stresses is very powerful. You know, we can deal with the stress and then we can return to the appropriate part of the nervous system that we're supposed to be in, the appropriate state. So when we're dysregulated, often what happens is we get a stress, a symptom, and we get stuck in a state. And it's because our nervous system isn't regulated. So this breathing is one way we become more resilient and our nervous system becomes more regulated. And as you learn about your body, as you go through this journey, you will learn what the different states look like for you as individuals and what sensations that you have in each of these states. So, like I said, it's a little bit about the nervous system. And we'll talk in depth about the vagus nerve. I think that's our next class. So vagus nerve is going to be next class. Okay. All right, Josh, should we do many small breath holds again?
Yep, let's go for it, yeah.
Okay, let's go for it. So one of the things that I didn't say is when we do many small breath holds, we don't spend a little bit of time doing diaphragm breathing. We don't do any breath awareness. It's like, boom.
Straight into it.
Straight into it. It's like you don't need to, what we call fanny around, saying, oh, I got to focus on my nose and focus on this. It's like, go straight into it. Don't worry about the position of the body that you're in. Just do it. Don't think about posture or anything. It's like, just get started. The sooner you start, the quicker you will get those results. So like I said, we're not doing any sort of warm up here. We're going to go straight back into it. And we'll do that. Should we do you want to do a 4-second hold on this one, Josh? Okay, let's try a 4 and then we'll see how that feels. And then in your own time, you can maybe try a 5 and like I said, see how that feels. The, oh, Joe's good. Oh, good, Joe. The 3 breaths in between, how did those feel? Oh, you're on mute.
I always seem to find I am just quite a slow breather because whenever people are doing it's not just yourself, but whenever I'm listening to our, over the years I've been listening to guided breathing stuff, I always feel like kind of like I need to catch up, like sort of I need to I think I do just take quite big breaths.
Mm-hmm.
So but no, it's fine. It wasn't like I was, going
Okay.
red in the face or anything, so that'd be okay.
You didn't experience air hunger just from the recovery
No,
breaths. Okay,
no.
I'll try and slow them down just a little bit. So we'll
Yeah,
probably do, if I think about it, we'll do like a 3-second inhale, 3-second exhale. That's
yeah.
probably, that's 6 seconds. That would be maybe our normal breathing. So we'll, like I said, we'll start and we'll do the 4-second pause, and we'll do a 3 and 3 will be 3 breaths at 10 seconds. So I've done all the maths for us. Okay, so we're again everybody will start with that exhale. So we're just sort of emptying the lungs, and then we'll go right into the inhale, exhale. And we're going to do this we're probably going to do this for about 5-6 minutes, and then any time for Q&A, and then we'll finish class. So we're going to do this. Let's try and do it for 5 minutes. All right. So when we're ready, we're going to start with that full exhale in 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Normal inhale. 2, 3. Exhale. 2, 3. Pause. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 2, 3. Exhale. 2, 3. Pause. Oh, sorry, went wrong. I'm going to catch up. Okay, let's start again. My bad. Let's everyone start with that exhale. Exhale again. And normal inhale. Normal exhale. And pause. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Pause. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Pause. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Pause. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Pause. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Pause. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Pause. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Pause. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Pause. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Pause. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Pause. 2, 3, 4. I'm going to increase the pause by 1 second just for 3 more rounds. So let's inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, pause, 2, 3, 4, 5, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, pause, 2, 3, 4, 5, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, pause, 2, 3, 4, 5, and return to your normal breath. Okay, a little bit of play with numbers there. So what doesn't change is the recovery. That 10 to 15 seconds. I mean, if you need to take a break, you take a break. But if you were doing this in its purest form, it would be that 10 to 15 seconds. It's the pause that we are getting the benefit from. So we did increase it to that 5-second pause, and it may be that that feels better for you. So it is literally for you to find out what suits your body in that moment. And it may be that if you're feeling activated and you start with the 1-second pause, and it's like, okay, that didn't feel like it was quite enough, you could increase it to 2. Remember, you are always in control of your breath. So it may be that you stay at 1. It may be that you play with a 3-second pause. So just make sure that after the pause, you can always feel like you can breathe easy. So one of the things that I always caution people against is you pause for 5 seconds, and then because that breath hold is more than is suitable for your body, I need to take a bigger breath to sort of catch up. So it's normal breathing the whole time. This is a normal breathing exercise. There is no air hunger. There's no big inhale. There's no big exhale. There's no longer exhale than longer inhale. It is literally the pause is the thing that actually makes or extends the exhale. So, Josh, how did you find it with the slightly longer pause?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I can sort of feel it relaxing me. Kind of just yeah.
Good. Good. So, for some people, I know I talk a lot. Some people,
It's fine.
even counting is activating for them. Because if we think about the part of our brain that requires us to count, it's actually that left side of our brain, that sympathetic side. So for some people, they just literally want something that's very easy. Now, I have heard with some of my clients that they've liked an app called Breath Ball, where it's a free app and you can set these breathing exercises to your cadence. So if you find an exercise that you like, for example, many small breath holds, I think you can put it into Breath Ball, and then it will give you on your phone screen either a ball to follow, and you can set the time, or it will give you chimes. So if you don't want to think about things, or you haven't got, something to follow, sometimes getting an app or getting something that just makes it easier for you is something there is access to. But like I said, I've had a lot of clients use breath ball, and they just follow along with that. So, okay. All right, Josh, do you have any questions? Or Joe? I know you're on quiet time today. Josh, anything?
I'm all good. I'm going to definitely go and download that app. That's what
Yeah,
I'm going to do.
give it a try. I haven't, like I said, I haven't tried it. I haven't tried it myself, but I've had a lot of people that have liked it. One of the apps that I know I'm an Oxygen Advantage instructor. One of the apps I do not recommend is the Oxygen Advantage app, because what they have you do there, and I'm going to say this right off the bat, I should have said this at the beginning, is it makes you do a daily practice of practicing your breath holds. So if you know anything about Oxygen Advantage or Buteyko, there is a breath hold time called a control pause, or the BOLT score, the body oxygen level test. That's body oxygen level test goes with Oxygen Advantage. The control pause goes with the Buteyko method. Now, for people dealing with long COVID, ME, and CFS, we do not recommend you measure your control pause or your body oxygen level, because actually it ties right into what I've talked about today. Depending on what state your body is in, the nervous system, you are going to get different numbers every single day. And one of the things that I don't want to have happen to anyone that begins this breathing journey is to get disillusioned. And I got disillusioned. I used to do that body oxygen level test every morning, and my numbers were like this. I would go down, and I'd come up again, I'd go down, I'd come up, and I'd be bouncing all over the place like I was on some sort of trampoline. And even though the trend was this way, the thought in my mind was, why am I doing this when I'm not getting the results? Is it really working? So Jackie and I are both huge advocates of a couple of things. We don't do these control pause. You wait until you're healthy until you could do those. And the other thing is this breathe light exercise, which we don't teach. And it's another thing that tends to exacerbate symptoms. So breathe light and body oxygen. So it was just that connection with the Oxygen Advantage app. It makes you do that test every single day. And like I said, I don't want you guys disillusioned. I want you to feel the power of your breath. Okay. All right, Joshua, let me know how you get on with I was going to say the Powerball, but that's a lottery in America. The breath ball.
I shall do. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll see you next time.
All right. Bye, guys. I'll see you next week. All right.